I'm Dr. Craig Escude, the host of IDD Health Matters, a podcast where we talk about health, wellness, and health equity for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. Hope you enjoy it.
The IDD Health Matters podcast is a joint production between Friends for Life and Intellect Ability. For more information, go down into the show notes and click the link where it says Learn More here.
Hello, and welcome to this episode of IDD Health Matters. Today, we have with us a fascinating guest, and I can't wait for you to meet him. His name is Eddie Teduri. Welcome, Eddie.
Hey, thanks so much.
So, Eddie,
I'll try to keep up with that.
No worries. You have a great story about how you came to work in the field of intellectual and developmental disabilities. I'm just going to let you jump right in and tell us.
Quite simply, I'm a drummer. I play music for a living. Actually, people ask me sometimes if they think I'm successful because I've worked with a lot of people. Actually, I was a sideman like so many other people in the business. We work for big stars, but we aren't the big stars. We work for them, so.
Understood.
It's very different. But when people ask me, I say, well, was I successful? Yes, I paid the rent playing drums my whole life. That's success to me.
All right, Eddie, before we go on, who are some of the people that you've played with?
The people you might recognize would be, Rick Nelson and the Stone Canyon Band.
Okay.
The Beach Boys.
Nice.
Yeah, there's been Dobie Gray, Give Me the Beat Boys, The Free My Soul.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Del Shannon, and I've done a lot of recording. Jimmy Messina. The band I was in when I got hurt, which I'll get to, was with Jimmy Messina from Loggins and Messina. I loved it. We're still friends to this day. Kenny is an acquaintance too. He lives here in Santa Barbara. So, gosh, I could send you a resume, but it goes on and on and on. It's not.
Well, the thing is you've had some great experiences playing the drums, and then something happened, right?
In '97, I lived in Carpinteria, which is a very small beach town, right south of Santa Barbara, where I live now. I was body surfing, which I did every single day. I lived right across the street from the beach. I loved it and went every single day. And it was a day like any other day, and the waves were not big. In fact, in Carpinteria, it's called the safest beach in the world. I beg to differ. But
yeah.
I was swimming. I was about 20 yards out, and I had a gig that night before, and I had another one I needed to prepare for that day. And I said goodbye to a few people, and I jumped in the last wave. And that last wave it didn't turn, or it didn't act normally as a wave you would expect a wave to, and it just pounded me into the bottom. I heard a big crack and then nothing, and then my just sort of floated in one direction as I was 3 feet underwater and totally paralyzed and alone.
Wow.
These near-death experiences are really difficult. It's so ethereal, it's hard to put into words what actually happened, but I was lifted from the bottom and placed at the shore where there was nobody there. Placed at the shore where the lifeguard with the most seniority happened to walk by and saw me. He said, "Are you okay?" I said, "No, I'm totally paralyzed." He went right into action. He put some surfboards up. He kept people away. He called the paramedics. And the paramedics with the most seniority happened to show up. That fella handled me perfectly. With a broken neck, it's if you move.
The wrong thing the wrong way, it can totally change it.
My sixth vertebra was herniated and pushed against the spinal cord and bruised it. That's why I'm paralyzed today, to the extent that I am. But They took me to the hospital. The best neurosurgeon happened to be there. They rolled me right into him, Dr. Scott Connor. Scott said, I'll take this guy. I don't even know why he was there on a Saturday. It was kind of, to me, it was divinely guided, the whole thing, you know. So he and I got along real good. I was joking. The guys in the ambulance, I ran into them about a year ago, and they said, well, you were laughing and telling us jokes. And here we thought you were a complete quad and you would never move again. And you were so jovial, we thought you were a little off. And the doctor didn't, though. He laughed with me and we told jokes. And, you know, they took the MRI and he showed it to me. He says, well, this is what we have to do. I said, so when you want to do that in a couple of weeks, when would you like to do that? He said, no, we need to do that right now. I said, okay. And they prepared me and rolled me into the operating room. What I remember is everyone being very jovial and smiling. The anesthesiologist was coming at me and I said, wait a minute. I said, I have to tell you, you look just like a bass player that I worked with, who I loved. I said, he was really great. I said, I hope you're at least as good as he was. And he laughed and he said, count backwards, you know. Everybody was laughing. It was great.
Well, that's good in a situation that it's as serious as that. Sometimes, you know, humor really helps to lighten things and make it a little bit more tolerable.
I've been beat up pretty good, so the humor.
So what this story really illustrates is something that I talk about from time to time, and it's how any of us, in a matter of a second, can become part of the group of people with a disability. And that's something that we all have to think about in life, and think about when we're advocating and working to improve supports and services and health and wellness for people with all types of disabilities, including intellectual and developmental disabilities, that really any of us can fall into the group of people with a disability in a matter of a second. So, Eddie, this led you to, tell me more first, how you recovered to some degree.
I was in the hospital for a couple of weeks, and then they shipped me to the rehab here in Santa Barbara. And I was in the rehab for about 6 weeks. They were sure that, and I was totally paralyzed from the neck down, nothing. But I had this sense of, I wasn't worried. I knew that I would be all right. I was very convinced of that. And I knew it was just a matter of time, but nobody in the hospital thought that.
Yeah.
And I still speak to them to this day. I think I told you that one of the therapists is still one of my closest friends today. It was the lady who taught me how to walk. She was my physical therapist. The whole time, in the beginning, when I was there, when they finally got me out of bed into a wheelchair, and I was able to participate in all the various disciplines, they were all, you know how it is. They meet in the round every day, and they say, okay, this is what happened to Craig. Let's see, what can you do, and you do, and you do. And it goes around the room, and everybody chimes in. This is what we can do. And as a group, they put you back together. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
But with me, they said, there's nothing we can do for him. He's totally paralyzed. He's not going to recover. Medically, it just, everything we're looking at says that he's delusional. So they sent the psychiatrist in, of course. And I said, you guys are wonderful. I'm watching what's going on. It's like a miracle place here. You're all so kind and you have so much expertise. I said, but I'm sorry, but you're wrong about me. I'm going to be fine. And you just need to wait a little while. I'm going to catch up to this. And they were like, Eddie, you really need to deal with this. So the first psychiatrist didn't work. They sent another one who was in a wheelchair. And he said, he was wonderful. They were wonderful people. And he said, Eddie, we're going to have to deal with this at some point. And I said, you know what, Doc, I'm going to be okay. I know that strongly in my heart and mind. And, you're just going to have to kind of lay off in the meantime. And believe me, I'm very willing to learn how to, live life in a chair or in a car and with a lift, but I'm not going to need any of that. I'm sympathetic to anyone who does, obviously, but just wait, I'll be all right. And little by little, first this hand came back. When this hand came back, I thought, I'll ask a friend to bring me some drumsticks, right? Drumsticks and some shakers and some percussion.
Sure.
So I was still in bed. I could move my toe in this hand. I thought, great. So I had the drumstick and I started playing on the side of my bed, the railing on the side of my bed.
Mm-hmm.
I played, can you hear on this format? You can, all right. So
Yes.
I was playing.
Catch that.
I said, yeah, I still got it. I'm just a hand and a big toe, but I'm swinging here, So I asked Oscar, who was watching us in that ward, in the spinal cord ward, I said, can you just do on my food tray? And he said, I think so. And he did it. So I was doing.
Yeah.
So Edith, who was an elderly woman who had some very serious spinal injuries and operations and tumors, and she was in a lot of pain. We all felt sorry for her. She come rolling in from the other side of the ward. She says, I want to play. So I had a cowbell. By the way, never bring a cowbell to the hospital. So
Good piece of advice there.
I gave her the cowbell. I said, just try to play and 1 and 2. And she couldn't quite get it. Ted, my neighbor, had, poor guy, he had pancreatic cancer. He had had a stroke. He had diabetes. He was very close to leaving. And he said, I can play that. I can do it, Eddie. I said, so I told us, I said, Oscar said, I don't know. I said, just put the cowbell on his chest. He has a hand. And he played the part perfectly, 1 and 2. And so
there's no doubt that drumming and your positive attitude had a very significant impact on your ability to recover to the extent that you have, I would bet.
Yeah, and everybody in the hospital just dancing and I said, oh, geez, they're going to throw me out, Everybody loved it. So the wheels started spinning. I've been in the drum business a very long time. I endorsed a lot of products, and it's many years. I was 50 when I broke my neck. So I called the drum manufacturers and asked them to help me out. I said, I want to get people in this hospital playing drums and shakers and stuff. I didn't know where I was going with it. And this wasn't a drum circle. I want to make that distinction. If we're playing these parts, it's ensemble. A drum circle, they're really fun. I have nothing against drum circles, but they are basically, since you can hear me, they are basically,
Yeah, and you were teaching complex rhythms and things like paradiddles, right?
Well, we have paradiddles in the book now.
All right.
We have, when I've started working with folks with autism, I was trying to think of how the severe autistic folks, how could I keep them in the moment longer? How could I help them to concentrate? So I wrote out a bunch of rudiments in drumming. And the one with them I would use is called a 13-stroke roll. That's long. You have to stay, and it's hard. And they're going. Yeah.
So Eddie, I want to get into the program because I know these are components of it, but I want you to describe what you created, what all of this drumming that you were doing and helping others to do and as they were recovering. What is the program that you created? Tell us about it.
It's called the Rhythmic Arts Project. All this, the early playing and cooperating with therapists in the hospital and people looking for various ways to enhance their patients. All the therapists joined in. We were talking about range of motion, balance, and following directions, and rehab goals for people with all sorts of disabilities. We started showing that around. One of the therapists there, Libby Whaley, took me under wing and the project under wing, and we started showing it to therapeutic conferences. And we were in Northern California, and we did our presentation, which was mainly about physical therapy and hospital goals. Mm-hmm. So a young lady approached me after our presentation and said, "Have you ever worked in the field of developmental disabilities?" And I said, "No." She says, "Well, if you haven't been around," I said, No, I haven't. She said, "Do you think you would be willing to come down to Pasadena," which was about an hour and a half from Carpinteria, where I lived, "and work with our children?" I said, "Absolutely. Absolutely." I took a few drums and I went down there, and they had 26 children from maybe the age of 7, 8, 9 to about 25. Mm-hmm. A lot of people all in a church, in the basement of a church, but with two really brilliant developmental therapists. I had no idea what to do. Mm-hmm. I sat down and played for them. Then I tried to answer. I was scared.
Sure. And that is not an uncommon feeling that people have when they begin to, sometimes just be around people with intellectual or developmental disabilities.
Well, I was attracted to the population immediately, though reticent to really get involved. I didn't know what can I say. I have to do something to help, to be part of this. And the girls were brilliant, and they helped me. And we started playing drums, and then I brought more drums, and then I thought, well, let's see. A lot of people couldn't count to 4, right? Sure. So I didn't have a book. I had a blackboard there, and I drew a quarter note on the blackboard, and I said, "Who likes rock and roll?" I swear everybody in the as far away as they were mentally or physically, they all liked rock and roll. So I said, "Great, well, let's learn how to count the way I did in rock and roll. This is a quarter note, and it's worth 1 beat." I said, "So if I draw 4 quarter notes, and I label them 1, 2, 3, 4, and I give you a drum, how would you play that? 1, 2, 3, 4. Mm-hmm. In essence, this is the essence of the program. The methodology is based in perceptual motor match. So we have visual, we see it. The tactile component is the drum, as well as the auditory component. Mm-hmm. When you hit the drum, you're actually feeling the lesson. It's cool. You feel the lesson, you hear it, so it's audible, and you combine it with speech. Visual, tactile, auditory combined with speech.
Nice.
That worked for the next 100 pages over the years of this book that I'll never complete it. I'm always thinking of new things. Doc told me once, "Stop writing. You have enough. There's enough." Doc Rader said, "It's enough, Eddie." But it's never enough. We're always finding new pathways and new ideas. Mm-hmm. And that's how the book and the methodology began in that place called The Wise Spirit. And it was wonderful. A lady named Seiko Nimi, brilliant therapist, and Susie Getty, her partner.
So tell us more about the program itself and where is it now?
Right now we're halfway around the world, from Thailand and Spain and Bulgaria and South America and North America. It's and it's doing better now that I'm trying to ask for help. I hired a really brilliant CEO who is based in Texas, Michael Thomas, and we're moving forward with this in a big way, in a business way. Now, the way I am here, this is my office. I work by myself. I've never really had any help, and it's always been my business was. Listen, people would call and say, "Well, what'll this cost me?" I said, "Well, it costs this much, but if you can't come up with the money, I'll figure out a way to do it. Don't worry."
Mm-hmm.
It's not the best business plan on the planet, but it kept me in here for 26 years successfully on this level. In order to go to the next level, obviously, I had to get a business plan, a business people involved. I now have a grant writer, and I have a office manager, and I have a new CEO, and it's a real business now. It's going to take off.
So, Eddie, what types of programs use your rhythmic arts program?
Pretty much, I started out in the arts, a lot of arts.
Okay.
And then branched out from there into other organizations. For instance, here I work at Momentum Work Inc. That was United Cerebral Palsy Work Inc.
Okay.
Well, everything in the beginning that I did was all experimental. I worked in an Alzheimer's place for 5 years. I loved it. I still love it. And I'm still trying to, sell the idea to them. So that's another thing, working with the elderly or Alzheimer's.
So Eddie, what types of benefits or interactions have you seen in people who participate in the program?
For me, they learn how to work in a group together. They learn listening skills. They learn real life skills like reading, writing, and arithmetic. We have a lot of mathematics. It's very simple, but it's a good, solid beginning. We have what I think it's a great program to get them, open them up, and introduce many new concepts to them that were never introduced before, not in this field. I mean, I see drum circles all the time,
Mm-hmm.
And I condone that. That's fun. Go to the park, communicate, get a drum, have fun. Follow the leader, but again, that's a very limited thing. We're a peer studied, published in the Journals of Special Ed. It's a real deal. So, go ahead.
And you've got a book or two, right? Talks about it.
I have a book that talks about it. Yeah, it's called. There's a picture of one of my favorite students from South America on the cover. She's a little girl with Down syndrome, and the name of it is "Hey, Take a Look at My Life." We get it on Kindle.
So that's the name of the book. Hey, Take a Look at My Life.
Yeah, I'll send you one. We don't really print them; they're mostly digital.
Sure.
I'll send you one for sure.
Okay, that would be an honor. I'd appreciate that.
What I did was I asked a lot of people who were aware of the program to write in and talk about their experience with it. So there are people writing from Europe and South America and America. And, I write probably most of it, but it's short. I did all the photography. It was really fun. But it really talks about the program in depth.
So if you had to guess, Eddie, how many people do you think have participated in this program to date?
Thousands,
all across the world, really.
Yeah, probably. People pop up, the programs pop up and they last a little while, then they drop out, then they come back. And, it's a matter of who's in charge at the facility.
Yeah, that's a pretty interesting story of how, you were a pretty prolific drummer, had an injury, and then didn't let it define you. You were not defined by your injury, and that's one of the things we talk about. We try not to define people by their ability or disability, and see people as people first. And you used what you had and what you were given to create something that has really touched the lives of so many people.
Mostly me, Doc.
Yeah.
Now, let me read this to you, all right? This
Yeah,
is
please do.
exactly. We have mottos. One of our mottos is expect intelligence. Always expect intelligence. From a teaching perspective, never approach a student with any preconceived notions as to their level of ability. Whether that child, the young adult, is neurologically typical or disabled, we are all intellectually different. Let's not judge anyone by the way they appear, looks, or deceiving. Given we approach this person expecting intelligence, with openness, trust, and above all, kindness, miracles can happen. They may have a capacity for emotional knowledge, imagination, and creativity beyond our own comprehension. More times than not, we're likely to walk away surrounded by light, love, and a newfound proficiency in our teaching skills. Always expect intelligence.
That is absolutely beautiful. And in the clinical world, we say presume competence. Don't presume someone's incompetent.
Yeah.
So that's beautiful. Is that in the book somewhere?
In the first book? No, I don't think so. I'll send this stuff to you.
It needs to be in your next book for sure.
Well, yeah, this last book was about my rock and roll career, so it's not G-rated. I don't go on those trips like the other rockers.
Gotcha.
So, it's pretty tame compared to,
Understood. We'll keep those stories for another time, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. So again, it's just pretty incredible. If people want to find out more about rhythmic arts, how can they do that? What's the best way to do that?
Well, the website will be very informative. And we are changing it. When Michael took over as CEO, he thought that we should have a more business presentation.
Okay.
It was never my forte. So, my website that's up now doesn't have the everything on it, but it's got a lot of fluffy stuff and really cool pictures and testimonies and, but it's traplearning.org.
Traplearning.org.
Yeah, and it will be that. The new one will be that. We're working on it now. I don't expect to see that for another month or so, but the one that's up now can answer quite a lot of questions. And
excellent.
People are welcome to call me. I'm always available. I have one phone number. Anybody can call anytime, as long as they're not calling me at 5 a.m. because they're on the East Coast.
I don't know if I want to ask you to give that out on here because once it's out, it'll be out. You never know how many calls you're going to get. But maybe an email address. Do you have an email address you'd like to share?
traplearning@gmail.com.
traplearning@gmail.com.
All one word. Traplearning.
Traplearning. Great.
@gmail.com.
Excellent. So, and TRAP stands for the Rhythmic Arts
Project.
Right. Okay, great. So that's exciting. And I would encourage everybody who's listening to take a look at it. It's really an excellent and a fascinating program.
Friends for Life Residential Care, specializing in support for individuals with developmental disabilities, offers services like adult day support and home health care. Emphasizing empowerment and quality of life, we live by the motto, "My ability is stronger than my disability." We are currently hiring, welcoming those passionate about making a difference. Learn more and explore career opportunities at friendsforliferc.com.
I'm Dr. Craig Escudé, President of Intellectability. State developmental disability agencies, managed care organizations, and providers across the United States use Intellectability's health risk screening tool, e-learn courses, and person-centered training to improve health equity for people with IDD. Visit replacingrisks.com to learn more about how you can employ these tools with people you support.
I like to ask guests to tell me 3 things, 3 tidbits, 3 tips, 3 points of interest, 3 things that you think can improve the world of supports and services or of health and wellness for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. You already really told us one related to, presuming, as I said, presuming competence or assuming intelligence.
Yeah. For me, I like to ask a lot of questions rather than preach or talk about what I like to ask a lot of questions that are common in our field. And because I'm not a therapist or a medical person, so all of this had to come to me by my caring and asking and participating and volunteering. You know, I would really suggest anybody who wants to make their life better, find something, put your heart into something and go raise your hand. I'll do it. I'll be there. When do you want me? That was what I did in the very beginning here for the first few years. And even in the end, I never really charged much. You know, that needs to change so we can touch, 100 times more people. But,
yes,
I'd say, get out of yourself, find something you care about, and participate. And your life will change. It will change for the better.
And I love how you said that earlier. You said that you got the most benefit out of all of this.
Especially me.
Yeah. And that's very humble and very, very, very thoughtful. So when we talk about the 3 things there, it sounds like, assume intelligence, be inquisitive, and get outside of yourself, right? Volunteer. Yeah.
It's important that we don't get so bottled up in ourselves, our own lives that, that's why people tie themselves in knots so much. Don't worry about yourself so much. Worry about somebody else.
You are so right about that, Eddie. It has been a pleasure to talk to you, to learn about the Rhythmic Arts Project. And it's wonderful, the work that you're doing, and it's great to see your recovery from that very significant injury that you had as well too. I really thank you for talking with me today and sharing your story. And again, I encourage everybody to go out and look up traplearning.org to learn more about Eddie's program. Thank you so much, Eddie, for joining me.
Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed it.